Let's add our main classes with their functionalities into the mod project. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. Now, normally you would see different people teach you modding Minecraft with adding the very first item at this stage. I'm not gonna do that. You may ask why? Well, stay tuned to the end of the video and you will understand why that's the case. If you dropped the setup video and thinking that, hey, I know how to set up the Fabric event, then I highly suggest you go back and watch it, because we established our hierarchy of packages and folders there, and you may want to look at that in that video. However, the very first thing I want to attack is these two files. The names are big, ugly, and I don't like them. Changing these two means that I need to change the entry points in the JSON file. First, select the file name, Shift F6, and it brings the rename window. Now I will call it ZXC main and hit refactor and do refactor. So you see that it changes it here too. Now ZXC tutorial data generator, and I will call it ZXC data gen. Do refactor, do refactor. I want a new entry point. So I will just copy all of this and I will paste it, and this one is client, just as it is. And again, this is ZXC client. However, you notice that I got an error because I don't have the class yet. Come all the way to ZXC on the package list, hit Alt Insert, Java class, and we call it ZXC client, and the error should be gone. However, we have another error because, well, it's not implementing the client mod initializer. Yes, for sure, implement client mod initializer, and hit Alt Enter, implement methods, and that's the only method that we want to implement. So Alt Enter, enter, and that's that. If you right click on client mod initializer, hit go to superclass or interface, you see this. This is the source file. However, we didn't generate the sources yet. If you look at the setup file, the setup video, we didn't generate our resources. So we need to hit this gen sources and double click it. So it will generate the source files for us. We need to do it because we want to take a look at the code as readable as possible. Remember, Minecraft codes are obfuscated. If you want to look at Minecraft codes, you need to do this. You see this net Minecraft merged Fabric MC yarn. This is the version of the Minecraft being provided by Fabric. If I go into net, lock, and open any one of these classes, it doesn't matter. Normally you see something a little bit different because you wouldn't have generated the sources, and you see that it says choose sources, because it says, hey, we decompiled the .class file ourselves with IntelliJ, and it's just a decompilation of the defuscated file. There are some neglecting parts in different classes like Java docs, like namings. We just decompiled it. But if you choose a different source, we will show that source for this file. That's it. We just need to run this gen sources, and it will run 3 different gen sources that you see in the tasks: Windflower, Fern, and CFR in consequence automatically, so that you get the best source files for each one of these vanilla classes and interfaces and other stuff. I kept that from the setup video because you had to write something that would attack the vanilla code so that you could just right click on it and see the Java docs or things like that, and then you would see the difference. However, in this case, the client itself was not enough. I had to go more forward, but I decided that, you know what, let's get done with it. In this video, we have many classes that we need to write, not running gen sources. There is no reason to neglect it anymore. So I will wait and pause the video until it's finished, and I will come back, and we have to write 15 different classes till the end of this video. They are critical. Now, as it's going to download the source, I will talk about why I'm starting the project like this. As I said, normally people would tell you that, hey, this is the way you add your first item at this stage of video tutorials. However, when you are going to write a serious mod in your real dev environment, you don't want to start with, I don't know, JSON files for an item. You immediately want to start using datagen and other stuff. You want to have a very solid ground to start with, knowing that you have to write at least 15 different files until you get your project ready to run is a good starting point. Because I'm not aiming to provide superficial tutorials for you that tells you, hey, this is your very first item, hooray, this is your second block, hooray. No, I'm aiming to make you a serious mod developer and programmer. So if you want to be serious in this journey, you have to be professional. And a professional programmer doesn't start with the kids' way of adding your very first armor, launch the game, hooray, we have a checkboard items in our hand. No, we want to be professional, and professionals make jobs automatic as much as possible. And they should know each step they should take so that they can go forward. If I would write our very first item and use JSONs, and then I would write our very first block, again using JSONs, and then roll back to talk about datagen? Hell no! That's a no way of being a professional programmer. Yes, I can prove that I can add an item, I can prove that I can add a block, but so what? You can find that on many videos out there on YouTube. If you want to be serious about mod development, then you need to know how serious mod developers do the job. A serious mod developer does not start with, hey, I have a checkerboard item in my hand, I have a JSON for my item, here's the JSON for block state. No, he will start teaching you the very first correct step of using the API provided. And for JSON creation, we have an API provided to us called datagen. So we will use that in this project and from here forward. So if I'm gonna use datagen, why not stab the skeleton of my files right in the first video? So now if I go here, I can say choose source, and well, now I have this one. As you saw, it pops up. It's the same name, however, at the end it has sources. So again, it's Minecraft merge fabric yarn, but it has sources. Click OK, and it will import it. You will notice that many things will change. Lots and lots of Java docs are being added. That's the very first thing. That's the thing that shows up in your face. Lots and lots of Java docs are added. And if you would sit down and compare the files, you would notice that the namings of the params are changed. And the most important thing is inside each one of these methods, it's an abstract class, so methods are almost empty or just very easy stuff. If I would open something serious like the piston class and I would go inside a method, now you would see that inside methods are changed drastically and much more readable. One thing to remember, if you see errors showing up inside your source files, completely ignore them. It's irrelevant, it's not important, it will work, your mod will compile, even the game will show up. That's not important. This is our source files being set up, and our mod initializer for our client is up. Right now, we don't need to add anything inside here, but we will come back to these classes one after another as we go forward. I will add one more package here, and I will call it main entries. Okay, now inside main entries, I will move the datagen inside main entries, and inside datagen I will add another package, and that is for world. So our hierarchy looks a little bit nicer now. However, in our main entries, let's change this name. I'm not happy with it. References. That's a better name. And datagen is not referenced now. You may say, why are you going back and forth? Get on with it, man. No, get used to it in the world of programming, because the more you think about the structure of your project, the better. Think about 2 years later when you come back to this project and you want to update it and you are saying that, hey, where is this class? I can't find it, because your hierarchy is not guiding you. Okay, if I want to keep the references here, the datagen needs to go out. Yes, okay, that's a better situation now. For the references, I will have a Java class called reference. Now Java classes start with capital words. Go and watch the Java syntax video. We will have another class here. I will just drop the class names. I will come back to these later. So the next one is the mod tags. We will have another class called mod screen handlers. We will have another class called mod recipes. We will have another class mod messages, another class mod items, another class mod item groups, another class mod armor material. By the way, I'm not the fastest typist out there, so chill down if you type faster than me. So mod effects, and one class that I dropped, mod tool materials, armor material, yeah, okay. Mod item groups, screen handlers, recipes, messages, items, groups, effects. Why am I keeping these ones singular? I don't know. Be consistent. Be consistent in your namings all the time. The next one is mod commands. Another one is mod blocks. And finally, mod block entities. Now, which one is which and what is happening here? Let's start from top to bottom and we will talk about these. Mod armor materials is an enum actually. It's not a class, but it doesn't matter. We can change the class name inside the file and make it as enum. But the mod armor materials is an enumeration of different materials you would add in your game, like diamond, netherite, iron, gold. You will have different armors based on these materials. Each material will provide different amount of protection and numeric values that is being used by Minecraft to determine how much protection an armor should give you. We will define those materials and the numeric values inside mod armor materials later. Well, you don't know what is a block entity. We will talk about it. Some blocks have an additional object as programming object, and that is block entities associated to them. And we will talk about block entities. We will teach you what are the block entities. But when we define our block entities, they sit here. Obviously, you will define your blocks from your mod inside mod blocks. If you want any chat command, you can create your own commands and add them inside mod commands. If you want any sort of effect, remember, it's not potions. We will add the potions later in this hierarchy. But if you want something like, I don't know, a flight mechanic like creative flight, it's a flight effect, and you will add your effects here. The item groups are the creative tab groups. You define a new creative tab, you put some items there, and then another creative tab, you put some items there. And these are being defined in this class. Obviously, the mod items class is all about defining your items for the mod. Mod messages is about networking. We will talk about networking later, but in this class, you will define your networking messages. Mod recipes is about definition of your custom recipes for your block entities and other stuff. Mod screen handlers. Mod screen handlers is about your GUIs. So you will define your GUIs in two places. One is screen handlers and one is the client. So these two work hand in hand with each other. Mod tags is about defining your own custom tags related to items. We will talk about tags later, but here is where you define them. And again, as armor materials, you have tool materials like, I don't know, iron for the shovel or pickaxe. Now you have iron for armor, the values are defined there on armor materials. But if the iron should be used for tools like shovel, another set of values should be set and they are being assigned inside tool materials. And reference is just something that I use. Normally I put mod tags under reference, but we will talk about internal classes later. So I just kept them separated to begin with. And the more I think about it, these two really should sit under references because this is the collection of everything. However, I'm not doing it because these three are entry points into our mod, and normally people keep them in the root of their project. So I will keep them there to be consistent with other mod developers so that when you go and look at their repositories, you won't get confused. Let's sit back and write the internals of each one of these classes, starting with our main file, because main file has few things that we need to change. The very first thing is that you notice that we have tabs here and I'm using spaces. So right click, format code, and hit OK, and you will see that it changed to spaces with showing dots here. Then we remove this whole section. We don't want to print anything inside here. We will take this logger outside of this class and we move it inside our reference class. The logger being static means that I don't need to instantiate reference to get access to logger. And inside the reference, we will add two more methods. One returns a not nullable, so not null, value. This annotation makes sure that we will return something. It makes sure that the return thing shouldn't be null, because we say public static, we return an identifier from net Minecraft utils. Don't use the IntelliJ language one, the Minecraft utils, and we call it identifier. Again, we accept a not null value, so it should be something, and that's a string, we call it path. Now, what is an identifier? An identifier is an address of an asset sitting under your assets somewhere in the structure. And you are addressing that, hey, this asset is from Minecraft or for this mod ID under this folder, and this is the name of the asset, retrieve it. So basically, this is the Mojang way of addressing different files under your resources assets folder. And by having a method like this, we will make sure that our mod ID is always being added to the path so that it starts from resources assets ZXC underline tutorial and nowhere else. So how should we do it? Well, we say that return new identifier, and inside here you see that it asks for two parameters. Pay attention, I didn't type this namespace column or path column. You shouldn't type them. This is IntelliJ's helper showing me the parameter type that we need. And if I move my mouse out, it shows up, but it's not there. If you notice, if I try to drag my mouse, it jumps before and after of it. So these are just helper visual text. They are not inside the main code. You shouldn't type these. So the namespace means that which subfolder of assets should I look to? Is it Minecraft or is it something else? Here we have something that called ourselves as mod ID. We don't have it yet. We will add it. And then the path is the subfolders under this namespace. So these two, Minecraft ZXC tutorial, is the namespace. Anything below that is inside the path. So for example, if I want a texture that is under item, I would have to type textures. For example, let's go with GUI, okay? If I want this arrow button left, and if you don't know why these are there, go watch this setup video. That's not your classic setup environment. Things are happening there. So if I want this arrow button left, you would have to write texture users GUI arrow button left .png inside the path, and then, well, I am giving the path by method parameter. So the only thing remaining is this mod ID. Mod ID is public static string called mod ID, and you notice that when I'm typing M, even with the first capital M, it suggests that you should use mod ID because IntelliJ is smart. It knows that I have an error called mod ID with the text mod ID. It assumes that if you are going to type something, it should be mod ID, I think. Yes, it's mod ID. Hit the enter, it will add it there. Equals to. Now, here is a very critical thing. When you are typing your mod ID, pay attention to the typing. If I type AXC, well, my mod ID is ZXC. I can go and call it tutorial, okay? On the surface, I have no errors whatsoever. However, if I run the game, well, it will compile for sure. If I run the game right now, it will work because, well, I don't have anything referencing this method right now. But the very first time you use this method and this method goes back and use this mod ID, or whenever I directly use this mod ID, I will crash the game because I have a typo here. And the error message there may misguide you and you don't understand what the hell is going on. So you would track it and you will find that somewhere it says I don't have access to this mod ID or domain or whatever, and you would understand that, hey, wait a minute, what's going on? I have the correct mod ID because you are not paying attention to this little typo here. So be very careful about these sort of errors because they can bite really hard. Okay, the next one is something that is really useful. We say public static, and this returns a mutable text from Minecraft text, and we call it translate. Now, you played Minecraft. You may never done it, but you may know that you can change the languages inside Minecraft. If you do that, then different mods provide some translations. And if you want your mod support translations, you have to provide the languages files inside this assets folder called lang. Right now, we are providing the English one. And if you want different texts in your mod, use language files, you have to translate them. There's no other way around it. And here is what we are doing actually. Now, we want to have a key, so string key. That's the string that is being used in the JSON to look for the translation. So we have a key and the translation text. Then we accept an array of objects as the parameters. You can say, hey, we have params array, or you can put 3 dots here, and it means that this is an arbitrary number of objects that we are sending in. Use it and combine it to each other the way you know, or the way I tell you, and use them. So the params here can be one object or it can be hundreds of objects. So the way to do this is it's simply returning the text from Minecraft.text.translatable. Key is mod ID plus, we put a dot here, plus the given key. And the next parameter is the params that we sent in. Okay, so if I move my mouse on translatable, you see the Java docs says that, hey, I need a key and an object, arbitrary number of objects as arguments. And we just accept that as params. Now remember, text here is the class, translatable is a method. If you don't know classes and methods in Java, I have a whole playlist of videos about Java. Those will be a complete Java series, not only for mod developers, but any programmer wanting to use Java. And when you move your mouse on the method, the text you see here is called Java doc. Please get used to, make it a habit of reading the Java docs because they guide you most of the time until you don't need any more help anywhere else. So returns a translatable text with arguments. The arguments passed must be either numbers. It says that the type of these objects should be numbers, booleans, strings, or another text. For example, if I send in an enum, it will convert the enum to numbers or maybe the text automatically. I don't have any control there. But if I send in some other class as an instance, it won't accept it. So use signified translatable to construct texts with other objects as arguments. So it says if you want, for example, to send in a class, well, the text.translatable is not working. Use signified translatable. Alternatively, convert them using static methods here like of identifier. So it says if you want to use the text and the translatable method, you can use static methods for converting here directly. Okay, and then it says that hey, other info in this Java doc is that it says that hey, this translatable is sitting in the package of net Minecraft text under the text class. It returns a translatable text with arguments, and inside the package in the library called net Minecraft merge blah 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 blah. Okay, so that's that. Now these three are finished. For time being, I will save it and I will pin it because I will come back to this reference later. And my job with the main file is finished too. So I will save it, I will close it. Now mod tags. Right now I will keep it empty because it has 3 classes inside of itself. And as I said, I'm thinking about making these tags internal class of the reference itself, and it will be hierarchy of classes there. I may drop this class and add the class right inside reference. We will come back in the end of the video and stab it. So it will be written for the skeleton of this inside this video, but not right now. Mod screen handlers is all about your GUI. Right now, we are just gonna add few things here and nothing more. The very first thing is hitting Alt Insert and selecting this constructor. So it will add a constructor here. Inside this constructor, we are writing this throw new assertion error from java.lang. Now what is this? You may see it, you may not see it in different repositories for different mods. Assertion error inside a constructor means that no one is allowed to instantiate this class, because remember, it's not a static class, so it's instantiable. You can say, hey, I have a new mod screen handler class somewhere in your code, but then when you want to play the game, you will get an exception of type assertion error, and you would track it back to this constructor and you will understand that, hey, I can't instantiate this class. This is a way to prevent others or yourself accidentally instantiate this class. So this is the very first one that we want to add inside almost every one of these classes other than your main. The next thing that we will write right now is just a public static void method called register. Inside register, right now we have only one thing. We say logger and you don't have the reference here. Okay, don't worry, it will work. Dot, and it imported the package. No, okay, logger.info, and the info I'm sending in is this 3 arrows registering screen handlers. And you see that now if I hit Alt Enter, going back on this and hitting Alt Enter, it says that, hey, I want to import com mojang blah blah blah. No, I'm not wanna do that. If I say reference from my package jiraya zdxc.references .logger, it will work. I move my cursor on the logger word, Alt Enter, it says add a static import for this, and it adds the reference class and the package, but it puts .logger and it makes it static. This means that, hey, I want to use this class and this object inside this class, and I always want to use that, and hit the semicolon. Okay, so from now on I will copy this throw new assertion and we will move forward. Basically, we are going to write some register methods, some constructors inside different classes. In mod items and blocks, the register method is a little bit more complex. Don't worry, I will tell you each one of them until the end of the video. Stay tuned. This is one of the bigger videos, longer ones, and from now on, actually, mod developing is time consuming. So be a relaxed programmer. Okay, let's move on into mod recipes. And this is the very first class that we will see something from the API called registry, and you will use registry and stuff like that a lot. Stay until the end of the video because I'm gonna explain tons of information in this video. The very first thing we want is a constructor, and inside constructor, of course, we are throwing the assertion. Then we want that public static void register. Inside register, we say reference.logger.info, and here we are saying that registering recipes, and going back here, alt enter static. Then we add two register methods. These two are private, so outside of this class no one will see it. These are static because we want to make sure that we can call them without instantiating the mod recipes. Void because we just register, we don't return anything. We call it register. You may notice that we have an error because we have a method called register. However, we have an error because these methods signature look like each other. And what is a method signature? We're returning nothing, we accept nothing. However, this time we are accepting a string called name, and you see that immediately the error is gone. The only error is here. So, and then a recipe serializer of type unknown. Call it serializer. Wait a minute, stop right there. What did happen? This is called generics. Again, if you don't know what is generic, go back and watch those video tutorials on Java. This is a generic with unknown type, means that I can send in any type, and this question mark, it's called wildcard. I'm sending in a recipe serializer generic of unknown type, and I want to register that. Okay, now fortunately Fabric and its API is letting us use this type of generics. Now here is the very first thing, registry. Now registry, we don't want that. We want this Minecraft.registry. Registry is a class responsible of registering everything to Minecraft. So whenever you want to register a block, you call registry. Whenever you want to register an item, you call registry. Whenever you want to register a network message, you call registry. When you want to register a recipe, you call registry. Whenever you want to register a block entity, again, you call registry. It's as simple as that. And you always call the method register. Actually, if I put the dot, you see we have very few methods. Some register methods and register reference. Normally, you work with register. The register is asking for a registry. Now, this registry is different from the class name. Here is a reference of a type in an enum, because registry is asking you, hey, what are you registering? Is it an item? Is it a block? Is it a block entity? Is it a command? What are you registering? Tell me the type. And normally, when you want to find something as these types or categories that should be there in Minecraft somewhere, use plural names. For example, I want registry types. I type registries, and that's there, registries. Dot, and you see all the registry types that we can use, and here is recipe serializer. So we are registering a recipe serializer. Now it says, hey, what is the ID? And you notice that it says identifier. The identifier is the identifier from reference, and the path is just the name we sent in. Finally, it says the entry, means that what is this serializer that you want to register. So up until now, we told that, hey, system, please please register something for me. That something is type of recipe serializer. You can find it here, and this is the object itself. Okay, so we are registering our serializer with this address. Remember, this address is not existing on this hierarchy because we will write our serializers as code, but Minecraft should have an address to it as an asset, and here is the address that we provide ourselves. So we provide the object. We are telling that, hey, Minecraft, don't look on the folders, use this object, but at the same time give this address to this object, and this is a type of recipe serializer. Now you can register it. This is how it works. Okay, the next one, private static void, again register with a string as name, but this time a recipe type of unknown, and we call it recipe type. Okay, now remember, a recipe for any block entity like a furnace. Okay, you put raw meat inside furnace and you get a cooked meat out of the furnace. Okay, that is a recipe for a block entity. Any recipe for any block entity has two sections dedicated to it. One, a serializer, a recipe type. The serializer is responsible of serializing, means that it is responsible of writing and reading the data. It's called serialization. So the recipe itself, and recipe here is a class. Okay, the class object itself should know how to serialize and deserialize the data, and also it should know that the type of this recipe, is it a cooking recipe, is it a crafting recipe, whatever it is, or is it a custom type that we provide for the game. Whenever you want to register a recipe, you have to register two things at the same time. One is a serializer, the second thing is the recipe type. Without one of these two, game will crash because it won't know how to handle that recipe. So again, we know that we want to call registry.register, and here is the type. So again, registries dot. Now it's instead of recipe serializer, we have recipe type. The ID again is identifier with the name, and the entry is the recipe type that we gave him. It looks similar to this one, well, because they are doing the same thing. They are registering different things. The type is changed and the object is changed. Now you notice that I have name as a parameter for two different classes. Well, here's the thing. When I'm registering a recipe, I will send in the same text as the name, and that same text will be used for addressing two different things. How is the game not confused? For example, let's say that, hey, to give you an example, I can call it like this. I can call it that, saying, hey, register, I don't know, call it whatever you want. Cooking, okay? And here is the recipe type. I don't want to use a recipe type. I will call it new serializer. Recipe serializer. Sorry. New recipe serializer. And okay, this will not work because it won't accept a wildcard here, but hey, it's an example. Okay, so again, I can use the same as recipe type. No. Okay, so as you see, I'm sending in the same text. So how does the system not confuse and knows if it's referencing the recipe serializer or recipe type, backbone of itself, when it's doing its internal things? The reason is that I'm providing a type associated with addresses, and it has internal checks to see that, hey, if the address should reference a serializer or a recipe type. So don't be hesitant. You can use the same name. The system will understand if it should use a recipe type or a serializer. Now, let's move forward and do the mod messages. Now, remember, mod messages is all about networking, and you don't know what is networking yet. So all I'm gonna do is add few skeletons here. First, the constructor with the assertion. That's always the case. Then we say public static void register C2S packets. Don't worry if you don't understand these names. As I said, we will come back to them later. However, I want to have these skeletons because I want to put it as an initial state inside GitHub so that I can use data state as my mod template later down the road and as a guide for any starting point in my projects. So I would know that, hey, I need these classes. Okay, I know I need these methods inside these classes, and those are empty. Those are not doing anything, but everything is related to each other and connected to each other. That's why I'm doing this inside these videos. So the second one is register S2C packets. The last one is this public static void send to client player entities. And here I accept a word from net Minecraft world, and we will talk about this word later. We will talk about block pose. So if you don't know, it's the position of your block inside the word, but don't worry, we will attack each one of them later. Right now you know what is identifier. That's a good thing. A message and packet byte. Buff, again, this is something that I will talk about later. So this is just writing the skeletons right now. Okay, let's go to mod items. Now mod items will have these. First, again, a constructor with the assertion. Then a register method. So public static void register. And all it's doing is it's saying reference.logger.info, registering items. Now you may ask, hey, why are you just logging something inside the console? You can ignore it. Well, yes, I can. But having this, and when I'm debugging the game, I will see that, okay, I got into the registering of the items, I moved forward, got the next message, so I know that everything in this class is working. Or, for example, I got to this message, it shows up, but immediately I got crashed. So I know that something inside the registering of the item cycle is wrong. You'll come back to the error handling later, but it's informative and helping error handling at the same time. Above this register method, we have a private. Actually, I put my privates below this publics. So private static, it returns an item from Minecraft. Now items are the things you take in your hand. Diamond, iron ingot, or gold nugget, a sword. All of these are items. Anything that you can take in your hand and carry and put in your inventory is an item. So register item. Again, we send in a string name, and here we want to register the item itself. And I'm returning it back because I want to assign it to a variable. So we say return, again, registry.register. Now remember, in previous case on recipes, we didn't return it back, but here we can return because registry.register always returns a value. Okay, the return type is the past entry. So anything that we send in as the entry, as the last thing, is being passed back because you can chain commands on that thing. We will see that later, so don't worry. Just know that if I'm sending in an item to be registered, I will get back that item as the return thing. So here again, we say registries.item. We are registering the item. Now the ID is again identifier. We didn't add the static. So here is the thing. You remember, if I type identifier, I should see that reference thing in mod recipes that happened. But here it says new identifier because I didn't import a static reference. So I will go back to logger and he say static. Now if I come back down, how many spaces are there? There we go. And I type identifier. You see the first option says reference.identifier. That's the one I want. And the name is sending there. And the entry is the item itself. So this is how we register our items. And that's it basically for the mod items right now. Mod item groups is almost similar because right now we are just sending in a constructor with assertion and then we call it public static void register. Now here's the thing. For mod item groups, we will never ever write any code inside register other than the logger. So you may ask, why do we have it here? So reference.logger let's see, I said logger dot info, and that's this registering item groups. Okay, and we don't have anything else in here, so we will never write any code inside register again. Why should we have a method at all? Because if it's not really doing anything related to game, why it should be there? The reason is that we want to register something in this class, and that something is static. So we will have something like this in future. Public static final item group, name the item whatever you want, equals to blah. So it will continue on, okay? And that's again registry if you want to know that register something, okay? However, it won't work by itself unless we call this class and something inside the class. Either we instantiate the class, okay? We can't, we shouldn't, or call a method in the class, because the very first time we reference it and use a function in it, that is when any one of these static final objects are being defined. And that is why we need a register class that is non-functional. The functionality is actually that we are calling the class and a method on the class. So on the back end, the program has to have temporary instance of the class, and to create that, it will execute all of these statics. Without calling this method, we can't instantiate the object, and without instantiating or calling a method, these won't work. As I said, we can't instantiate, but we can call a method as a static method inside the class, and that is why we need this. Keep that in mind. This is the trick we will use a lot inside Minecraft modding. Inside normal Java programming, it's a little bit less happening, but in Minecraft modding, we use it a lot. Now, for the rest of the classes, as I said, this is a very long video. I think I will stop recording here, and I will come back and continue the stabbing in the next video. You will see these into 2 different days, but I'm just stopping the recording and starting the recording immediately. So we will continue stabbing these and the datagen right in the next video. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.